Neugebaur is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the United States has been very lucky that many of the potential global health pandemics have not become epidemic in the U.S. However, it's a little puzzling to me because, you know, some of these things like Ebola, Zika, have been around for a very long time, but what happens is something kind of elevates their attention, and then there's a call then for the federal government to come and spend billions of dollars to be in a reactive mode. So I guess my first question to the panel this morning is, rather than being in a crisis mode on some of these things, what would be a better plan? And because I think what I always find is when we have crisis, we don't spend money as efficiently as we do when we spend money when we're planning for it. So kind of go down the panel and in a perfect world, how can we get on the front of some of these rather than being in a reactive mode?
So I would concur with that. I absolutely agree that the reactive mode that we seem to be in terms of pandemic response and planning is not as efficient. I think we have made some strides towards trying to be more ahead of the curve. We had a lot of preparedness funding that has come through the health departments to try and set up some of these response plans in place, et cetera. But I think we can do more. I think that we need more investment in trying to understand where and when and forecast some of these risks and be able to quell them before they can even actually start taking off. And that means having really better surveillance systems globally as well as even improving our surveillance systems here domestically.
Right. So, I second the the importance of surveillance, and I can speak to work being done by one of my colleagues at the Broad Institute, Party Savetti, who was well positioned to apply DNA-based studies of the Ebola outbreak because she was establishing a research base in West Africa and starting to characterize fevers of unknown origin. There are many agents of infectious disease that result in symptoms and that are undiagnosable because we don't know what the agent is. And there are many of these, particularly in tropical parts of the world, any one of which could, in principle, emerge to cause an epidemic. So I would advocate the importance of surveillance, the importance of catching new epidemics early, and the utility of DNA-based studies for getting an early characterization of perhaps the agent behind emerging outbreaks.
I agree completely with what's been said. I'm much more applied in how I study vectors. It's more not at the genetic level, it's more at transmission dynamics, how they behave, the ecology of the vectors. That is where I believe funding also needs to be focused. You're right, everybody panic and throw money at it doesn't fix it. And I think I said it before, Zika virus is just the latest of an emerging arthropod-borne threat, public health threat in the United States. We had chikungunya last year, Rift Valley fever before that, and we'll have more because there are viruses out there that we know or suspect are vector-borne, but they're not in areas where we're really concerned right now. West Nile virus had never occurred in the real world until 1999. Zika virus wasn't in South America until last year, 2015. So viruses are moving around, and that's part of whether it's climate change or global travel, speed of travel, they're moving around. My basic belief is that we need to start at the applied level and train pest control operators. We saw a knee-jerk response to Ebola where nurses and clinicians did not have the proper personal protective equipment, the most basic of supplies they need. I can draw a similar situation with vector control operators and mosquito control districts throughout the country right now. They don't have those basic supplies they need, knowledge-wise and resource-wise, to attack this issue.
I think you have to look at the common element, and the common element is the mosquito. Control the mosquito, you control all the diseases that it has spread, is spreading, and will spread. And when I mean control, I mean giving yourselves the capacity, the tools, and the procedures to exercise that control. And in some areas, one may wish to eliminate the mosquito. In other areas, one may wish to have the ability to drive it down below a disease transmission threshold, which is not actually the same thing as elimination. But having that capacity, having that ability to do that, to me, is the absolute starting point of this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Neugebaur.